this, but let's try a live natal reading. Why not? Maybe I'll quit. So, never done this before. Obviously, it's anonymous. This is the, I guess you can't see it, the chart. This is the chart. I am going to try to decipher. No pressure. Ah. So we see that there is, I can't even see it from this angle. I have my computer too. So we've got a live natal chart reading. Let's get right into it. I got my iPad on my computer and it's being recorded. What is happening? All right. So let's go. So we got a 8th house sun in Aquarius, and we've got the moon in Leo conjunct the north node in Leo. So what's that noise? Okay, whatever. So anyways, first thing I like to start with, what is the relationship between the sun and the moon? And this is the third reading of tonight, and actually fourth, but third in a row. This always happens to me. Third time I've had a full moon chart. So sun in, yeah, so it's the axis of Aquarius and Leo. So when we look at the north node in Leo, south node in Aquarius, we see that you are your journey, your north node, your Leo north node journey is being supported by your moon, meaning that your unconscious kind of way of being is in line with your karmic journey. So if you don't know, south node over, actually, I'm going to presenting. Hold up. So, where the fuck is it? Okay. So right here, you can see on my cursor, south node, this represents kind of the been there, done that in past life. Obviously, it's in the 8th house, it's conjunct Neptune, and it's in Aquarius. So a lot of people that have this axis, that have the south node in Aquarius, what I've noticed talking to them is a lot of times they have trouble stepping into their power, stepping into this Leo energy, which is very misconstrued. Leo energy at its core is about authentic self-expression, right? It's about, and you also have, so you have Venus and Neptune, and then the south node, the midpoint in the 8th, right? So that's like very much past life. You know, anytime I see south node with Venus or with Neptune, it's you know, past life mystic energy, and it makes me think that you have like a karma being like a big helper, right? Someone who gives a lot, someone who is, you know, and maybe perhaps through that there's kind of potentially like there's a need in this lifetime to really go deep within yourself, 29-degree 8th house sun in Aquarius, and find that authentic real being, right? So with the north node, which over here with your moon, which means that you were born on an eclipse. Wow. You know, you are someone who is trying to really step into that fire. So when I talk about Leo and authentic self-expression, I'm talking about the idea, like, for example, with creativity, that it's not about, like, let's say you're a content creator, you're an artist or something. It's not about the views. It's not about the, you know, the reaction that other people get based on conditioning of what's supposed to be, you know, look good. It's about what you feel. It's like the idea of art therapy, when you go within yourself and you create something that, you know, helps you understand yourself on a deeper level, right? Now, that metaphor goes for everything in life. So as I was saying earlier, with a lot of the North Node Leo types, it's, you know, it's very hard for them to kind of accept praise. And when we see, you know, that you have this axis of Aquarius and Leo highlighted, it's clear that you're here in this lifetime to really find yourself, your authentic individualistic self, right? So we look, let's see, is there any squares? So, okay, so we have Jupiter, there you go. Yeah, Jupiter square the node, right? So that is a skip karmic step around truth. When I see that a lot, I think that there's, you know, I always think of like the church back in the day, you know, the lies that the church at some point started, you know, telling to the world, or even like in today's world, all the lies around us. And when you think about your dharma, right, you think about what you're meant to do, or you know what you're aspiring to do. That is based on your idea of truth. If I believe that you know, everything that the mainstream media tells me is correct, or, you know, like everything I learned in school is correct, blah, 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 then you know, my career or my dharma is going to be way different than if I don't know, question everything and have my own philosophies based off of my own investigations and so forth. So that's kind of what we're seeing here, right? So Jupiter, you know, it's the planet of truth. It's the planet of expansion. So really, like, there's a huge aspect of your chart, you know, with your ninth house Mercury and midheaven in whole sign, where the best thing for you, and it's a 0-degree midheaven in Pisces, you know, you could be someone who has, and it's conjunct the sun, right? 1 degree away. So you could be someone who has multiple, you know, a mutable midheaven. You can have, you know, multiple careers or multiple phases, you know, but really midheaven Pisces people, they're trying to do something that, you know, has some level of compassion, healing, helping people, right? Even if it feels like a sacrifice, you know, where, for example, you're giving up maybe something that's more based on the ego for the sake of, you know, something that fulfills your soul mission. So kind of back to that point, you know, so that's already a big thing for you, right? It's like, what is truth, right? Because ultimately, with your 8th house sun, all this 8th house energy, you're really meant to dive into your own shadow. You're really meant to, you know, 8th house suns, I always say, being one myself, that, you know, every single human goes through these massive changes, right? These massive, you know, I guess like eras in their life that are just very distinct one from the next. So with an 8th house sun, right? And then you've got Uranus and you've got Neptune, South Node, and Venus, right? These eras will be so distinct that it's almost like you are an actor, you know, like you'll look back at different phases in your life and you feel like an actor. Now I noticed that you don't live, I know, you know, you don't live where you were born. And, you know, that is, you know, common for that I've seen for 8th house suns, because basically what I see this so much, right? 8th house suns, like, they can outgrow people that they grew up with. It can be very kind of odd, right? When you're growing and you're evolving and all that, and you're letting go of what no longer serves you. It's like the snake shedding the skin. And then, you know, maybe people that you grew up with or whatever, they see that older version of you, and they, you know, sometimes, not everyone, but like some people, you know, will want to, like, they want that old version back. They want that old you back, right? But you're growing, you're changing, you're doing all this deep work. And so I tell people with 8th house suns, you know, sometimes, you know, boundaries, it's really important to have boundaries. And that goes for anyone with spirit, you know, who's growing spiritually. Like, if you don't have boundaries with people, and you don't, you know, you need to be able to communicate, like, with certain people, like, look, like, this is the direction I'm going. It might not fit with, you know, what you're doing, right? And it's kind of, can be a little bit awkward, right? But it's a must. And that's why I see a lot of 8th house sun people who, you know, have moved away from where they grew up. So, you know, when your son's in 8th house, as I was saying, like these, yeah, it really, I know it sounds extreme, but it does feel, and I've talked to many people who have agreed, many clients who've had 8th house sons, many friends, whatever, that it's literally a different, it's like an actor. Like for me personally, like it's like an actor. I was an actor, like at probably 3 or 4 different eras of my life. Like I am, you know, you're still the same person, but so fucking different, you know, like extremely different, right? So like once again, I know that everyone goes through phases, everyone matures, and everyone changes. But the 8th house sun, it's literally Pluto, right? So death, rebirth, transformation. It's when you're cooking, you know, cooking something and it's simmering, getting rid of the part that's no longer needed, right? So interesting. Let's see here. Aspect wise, right? So we're dealing with some interesting ones. So mainly to the moon. Okay. So we got the double opposition of Uranus and um Uranus, and then we got the square with Saturn. So that T square. Let's see. So Leo moon. And I'll talk more about the Leo moon in a little bit, but yeah. So it's apex of the T square is Saturn, and it shoots out in Scorpio. What a surprise! So yeah, basically moon square Saturn, right? That one is 0.07. That's one of the harder aspects in astrology because, you know, the moon, obviously, it's your emotions, it's your inner environment. Think of it like the moon for you. That's why I consider it the most important part in astrology. Well, it's the yin and yang with the sun, yin and yang. But it's like the environment we all live within ourselves metaphorically. We have a home within ourselves. That's why when we have transits, like you know, like if you have transit Neptune square the moon like I had, or if you have transit Pluto, you know, on your moon or whatever, you know, there's a lot of them. That's why those are the most like crazy ones, right? Because it disrupts that internal environment, right? That I think of like a warm, cozy cabin that you live within yourself. And basically, when Saturn squares the moon, well, first of all, a lot of times so moon being the mother, that's something that I've always debated because I've talked, you know, I've seen like even in my own chart, the moon's my father, and I've seen in lots of clients that in today's world, some astrologers say the moon's always the mom, sun's always the dad. Like it just hasn't worked with my experience. So I think of the moon more as like, you know, the early kind of just the nurturing, the early nurturing, and you know, perhaps it's the mom, but sometimes it's yeah, normally it's the mom, sometimes it's that. It's kind of hard to pin down. So moon square Saturn, you know, that can create depression, right? That can create feelings of like insecurity, discontent, um, and you know, sometimes like it makes it more difficult to be vulnerable, and it makes it more difficult to kind of like with self-esteem, right? And a lot of times because you know there's a lot of messaging early on that's a little bit harsh, right? From parents or whatever. Oh, I just had a crazy deja vu. That was weird. um, so you know, you can imagine like why that would be hard, right? Because you know you want to feel secure, you want to feel grounded, you want to feel happy, you want to feel um, you know, like things are just moving in the right direction. But you know, with that aspect, it can be difficult. And you know, then the fact that it is, you know, opposite Uranus, opposite Neptune, the moon, and those are from the 8th, right? That's also difficult, right? Because moon opposite Neptune, it's really it's interesting, right? It kind of so it can make you very drawn to very spiritual people, you know, and it's not it's not, it just makes it so like there's, you know, there can be like a certain cloud, Neptunian cloud, around the emotions. And, you know, even as a Leo moon, if there's Neptune opposing it, there's a big need to have alone time and to really, really understand, to be able to gauge yourself, like what is you at your baseline level, right? Let's say you spend like a lot of time, I don't know, let's say like you're working or you're with friends, you spend like a few days with them, understand, or like you go on a date or something like that, you know, you're around an environment or, you know, people, whatever. So basically you need to be able to understand when you leave that environment or leave those people, what your baseline level is. And let's say that like let's call it like a 5, right? And you, let's say you're around these people for a few days, and you then feel like that you're at like a 1. So then that's, you know, that's your then you understand, okay, well, so it's really about understanding your inner cues, right? And then let's say someone else, you go from 5 to a 7. Then you go back alone, you're like, oh, you know, like I felt good with that person. So it's really about like really, really having mindfulness. You need to like really get mindfulness going and have very strong energetic boundaries, right? That's so important because you can really, like moon, Neptune, hard aspects, you can take on energy that's not yours. And especially, this is huge, you know, from the mother. Now, I know it's an opposition, but if there were, you know, any, like, I believe this with any hard aspect of Neptune, like if there was anything, you know, negative, like a lot of people that I've talked to who have this, they tell me, like I'll talk to them in the follow-up and they'll be like, you know, is there any emotions that aren't yours, you know, that are your mother's, for example? And I've had some insane reactions, you know, where they're like, holy fuck, like, yeah, like I've been hanging on to this shame or to this, you know, whatever negative emotion, and it's not mine. So, you know, but like another big thing about moon opposite Neptune, and this kind of goes with what I'm saying, is that it's about identity, and there's the ability to lose your identity, right? That's why alone time and that solace of being able to kind of like go within yourself and really pinpoint and have that groundedness, because you don't have much earth in your chart, right? You're like me. So when you don't have much earth, let me just see. Nope, 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 nope. Yeah. You know, when you don't have much earth in your chart, it makes it so, you know, earth is the grounding force. People who have a lot of earth, typically they can wake up, and I'm not saying they feel the same every day. They're not like, you know, not like that, but like there's not these crazy fluctuations most of the time, right? They can kind of naturally be more balanced. Things like routine come easier. But I just think from an energetic perspective, when you have earth, it's grounding. And when you don't have earth, you have to work extra hard, whether it's like your workouts, whether it's your meditations, and especially with this Neptune energy. You know, like it's really like Neptune moon is very psychic too, because you have to remember, like these aspects are meant to be assets, right? So it's like it's really like very, very psychic, but sometimes too psychic. So it's about understanding the difference between imagination and intuition. Um, and sometimes, you know, it creates the extreme sensitivity to where, you know, if hurt, one can kind of like, and also like one can kind of trick themselves, you know? So that's the whole idea of Neptunian fog, is the ability to trick yourself and to essentially, you know, what, let's say it's a relationship or whatever, like ignore, you know, I know that's usually more around like the Venus Neptune stuff, but like it can go here, you know, with this too. It's just taking on energy that's not yours and then thinking it's yours, and then, you know, potentially ignoring like red flags in some cases. And you know, but it all comes from that desire to, you know, that desire for that oneness with the universe, right? But yeah, you need that strong identity. And it's amazing artistic and spiritual, you know, energy there for sure. So that's one that's big. So, you know, when we add Uranus, Uranus opposite moon, and that one is how many degrees? 5.49. So, and the other one was what? It was, yeah. So they're kind of on like opposite ends. Are they a midpoint? 6. Yeah. So yeah. So it's like they're yeah. So yeah, they kind of both converge on the moon. So basically, so a full moon, so sun opposite moon, a lot of times the parents are divorced, not always. If they're not divorced, they have usually like a a very different, I guess you could say, like if you the main messages, we all have main messages that we have from each parent, right? Sometimes they're pretty unconscious, but they're very different. So the big thing with sun opposite moon is to feed both mouths, as I always say. So I always think that Aquarius Leo is the of all the 6 axes, that's the one that, I mean, I feel like they're different. Obviously, one's fixed fire, one's fixed air, but they're both on some level speaking about individualization, right? They're just I'll get into the differences a little bit later, but basically, it's about understanding like how to not ignore one, because a lot of people with the sun opposite moon, they will only give to like the sun or the moon. Yeah. So, but a good thing like with sun opposite moon is that once you do balance it out, and also you're not meant to be on like the same trajectory as your parents. You're meant to blaze your own path, and you have this chip on your shoulder. Where's your Chiron? It's in Sagg. Interesting. I never see those. Um, so yeah, but as I was saying with the Uranus one, right? It can make so Uranus moon can definitely make emotions kind of like all over the place, kind of up and down. It can make someone almost have this like compulsive need for change. Sometimes it comes from like a childhood. Maybe the mother was had some erratic kind of behavior, like hard to kind of understand. Maybe there was some distance. And basically, there's just this kind of, I guess you could say, conflict between intellect and emotion. And it's really about like being able to go into, the feeling and really feel the energy of the emotions, right? But Uranus and Moon can definitely it can definitely make things very up and down. And you know yeah, just hard aspects of like Neptune and Moon and Saturn, like this, like I said, the Saturn can bring depressive periods. It can bring self-doubt and difficulty with being vulnerable. And obviously that one gets better towards 30 Saturn return, or when you really start doing the work with time, everything gets better with time, then you become a very emotionally mature person. But I think the biggest issue with the Uranus one is that it, like, the interpersonally can create a level of emotional distance and kind of difficulty with like forming bonds with other people, right? It can make one kind of, and you're already in Aquarius, so it's just so independent. And sometimes in relationships there can be this feeling you know of kind of like not wanting to get stuck, I guess, like feeling like relationships can be some kind of jail, like not jail, it's a little bit crazy, but like, yeah, like it's just really, really all about freedom, all about individuality. So, just I always talk about relationships. So far, just from what I've seen, you would have to be in a relationship, or the best, you know, basically you're on this very, very big path towards individualization, because in past lives you were held away from the truth, like your truth, the truth was pushed away, and there's a loss of faith, so you're trying to refine your spiritual way in this lifetime, but at the same time you still have this real, like, mystical power that you brought over from past life. So, and this helping power. So relationships are needed that allow you to shine, but also that give you independence, because North Node second, you're meant to figure it out on your own, right? There's kind of an over reliance on I guess like not just other people, but over reliance on external forces helping you, right? So it's really, really about finding your own spiritual values and just values in general, and through that, another big thing with Leo North Node is inner strength, right? Like that heart of the lion, the passion, right? So it can definitely, like what I say with the North Node and Leo people, is like it's okay to be a little bit selfish, and I don't mean that like selfish in like the crazy narcissistic way, but like when it comes to, like, you could imagine with this chart that you've had a lot of past lives where you've been the giver. Neptune, like, conjunct South Node in Uranus, that's someone who definitely, past life mystic, as I said. So there's a level in this lifetime of you trying to truly, truly find yourself, and that, will take you everywhere. Like traveling is definitely something I see in your chart, is something that can really, really elevate you, and you can have a spiritual relationship to traveling. And the ninth house Pisces with Mercury, and then midheaven, and then the ruling planets in the eighth. So there is a link between the more, and I say traveling physically or traveling metaphorically, right? Traveling metaphorically is trying on different philosophies, like this is traveling metaphorically. Reading, like talking to someone from a different culture, moving to a different place, just trying so many different things that elevate your worldview, right? That is massive. And there's a link between the shadow work that you do and so it's like the external, like the ninth house Sagittarian idea of like the external and the different experiences you have that broaden your worldview, and then like the internal work that you do, right? The death, rebirth, transformation. So speaking, kind of backing up a little bit, rising is Cancer. So if we think of the big three is like an egg, right? The shell is the ascendant, the sun is the white, and the yolk, yellow part of the egg, is the moon. So Cancer ascendant, right? Obviously, Cancer ascendant, it is, very, I think I have so many I get so many Cancer ascendants and so many Aries Venuses. It's insane. But basically, Cancer ascendants, I love it because it just gives like a very familial, like people meet you and they feel you have like a family kind of like vibe to them, Also, Cancer risings, following the lunar cycles, really important. They have a big impact on you. I need a better backrest. But basically, yeah. So so people see the Cancer. It's very, it's very, very chill. And then the white is the Aquarius, and the yolk is Leo. So that's water, air, and fire. So Cancer ascendant, Cancer and Leo are very different, right? So the external is, it's a lot different than the internal. And also on that point, Aquarius, it's five signs away. So your sun and your moon are very different than the rising. But yeah, Cancer rising, a lot of times they, it's more laid back. You know, they're not gonna all like really necessarily be the ones to just kind of like they'd rather kind of observe than just jump in right away. And you know, it makes your chart ruled by your Leo moon. So you know, on that point, Cancer rising, it definitely has, you know, that same energy that you hear about all the time with Cancer. And you know, you would think that this would be more with the moon, sun, different positions, but I've seen it with the ascendant, which is that you know, the whole metaphor of the once hurt, the crab crawling back in the shell and having issues with vulnerability. Now, if we link that to that moon square Saturn, you see it, you know, that's it's saying the same thing, right? So it's a challenge for you to, you know, if hurt, to be able to trust again, for sure. And you know, you do have some very interesting. So yeah, Aries, Mars in the 10th. Damn. So and then you got that Pisces, Mercury. So even more on that point. So what I was saying earlier about the osmosis, right? Like moon opposite Neptune. Well, when you have Mercury in Pisces, you also that same thing can happen with thought. So you have to really be careful, like around, you know, in terms of the people you surround yourself with, the environments where you work, all that, right? Because you know, Mercury Pisces, it's super intuitive, right? It's like literally the, you know, it's the bridge between the two worlds, right? You have that ability. But what can happen is that if you're not careful and if you're not mindful and really tracking yourself constantly and you know, making sure you're, you know, good vibes only, but you know, at least with the people you're close with, you can start to, for people not, you know, people with Pisces Mercury, they can start to take on thoughts that aren't theirs. Thoughts, beliefs, all that stuff. So it goes back to the idea of alone time, right? Alone time. And not all the time, I'm not telling you to be a loner, but you know, it's just important, right? It's important to really, really, you know, with that North Node in the second house, to really be able to have, like I always call it, a constitution of self, you know? Different situation comes up and you're answering that based off of, you know, all the work you've done and what you have decided you value, right? What you decided really makes you like that you care about, and making your decisions based off of that. So one element that really helps you in your nodal journey is the fact that you have the trine from Mars. Is there any other, let me see if there's any other squares. I don't think so. My lips are so fucking dry. Yeah, so also I'll get back to relationships in a second. Yeah, so Aries Mars is like the strong warrior energy, you know? And that, you know, on this journey for you to really, really, you know, find your passions, you know, like like I was saying, authentic self-expression, like really, it's, you know, Leo also very, very important. Leo is about the inner child, right? Leo, so this is an indication for me that you are trying to reconnect with that. And it's no surprise that your Chiron is in Sagg, right? Because we talked about the square with the nodes in Jupiter, and you know, the skipped karmic step around you know, around beliefs and faith and potentially losing faith and so forth, right? So you know, and then Chiron and Sagg, it can, you know, maybe perhaps I don't know anything about your family or anything like that, but perhaps, you know, you felt like you know, something with your, you know, something, because you do have a ninth house Pisces, right? So perhaps like, you know, you felt or feel or whatever some type of insecurity when it comes to your, you know, your beliefs and your visions and your idea of truth. Maybe it's not supported, So it really does speak to kind of like this healing journey for you. And because it's sixth house, you know, it could be your job, you know. It could be something that you're really trying to bring to your everyday life, right? You're trying to bring philosophy and new growth of that sense to your everyday life. And you know, I think traveling could be very healing for you, right? The more you travel, the more you learn, the more you augment your idea of the meaning of life, the better. And then in time, maybe you're someone who teaches people and heals people, like, you know, like someone who helps align people with their spiritual path type thing, right? Yeah, yeah. So let's see. But yeah, anyways, so I guess kind of back to the romantic stuff. Venus and aqua, like me. So it's with your south node, so you know that your romantic partners are going to be very, very karmic. And you also have Venus conjunct Neptune. Neptune. So, Venus conjunct Neptune. Let's talk about it because I tell a lot to my clients about this. You gotta be careful, bro. You gotta be careful. Why? Well, rose-colored glasses in love. Now it's very interesting though, because an aqua Venus is very much about keeping space, freedom, and individuality, even in relationships. However, it's an eighth house Venus. There's a split, a psychological split here, right? Because one end, there's that real, you know, need for, you know, for like, for example, like let's say you're in a relationship, you know how a lot of people just like lose themselves in relationships and then they break up. And that's a big generalization. But, you know, the idea is to not lose yourself, you know, to still, you have your life, partner has their life, right? That kind of thing. With Neptune though, Venus conjunct Neptune, there can be an over idealism. There can be the yearning for the perfect romance, right? Seeking the ideal and perfect partner. And I have seen people with, you know, this, like the square, the opposition, whatever, who just ignore red flags in relationships. And you know, they get into they try, sometimes they try to like replace God with partner. I say this so often, right? You can't do that. You can't be happy. You know, in relationships, it's kind of like money. It's like people think money will make them happy. If you're rich for a few years, after, I call it 3 years, like nothing, I mean, yeah, you're obviously your life gets easier and stuff, but like you become more if you were depressed before, you become more depressed because, you know, you're like, fuck, now I have this money that I thought was gonna like really change things and didn't change shit. Now I'm more depressed. Fuck. So with love, what I'm saying is that it's very, very important to be happy and to be happy alone and be cool alone, and to know that no human is perfect. You know, no human is perfect. And what can happen sometimes with the Venus Neptune is that, let's say, meet someone, might move really, really quickly, and then inevitably, you know, when that first fight comes, or when you start, you know, pink cloud's done and you pink cloud period, right, where everyone, that partner is perfect and blah 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 blah, you know, then you start to see. I'm reading a random client's chart. I just want to do this on live, first time. How's it going, guys? You guys enjoying this? Um, but yeah, so it's like, you know, things can, you know, like once that first fight happens, then what? You know, and then like, so I've seen people with this become disillusioned with the imperfections, and you know, then after that they dip out, and it's like relationships, you know, are not, they're not, you know, they especially for the aqua Venus person, like, you know, sometimes you need to have new rules. Like me, I sleep in a different bedroom as my girlfriend. You know, like I've made that rule. I never sleep. I never share a bedroom ever. Like I'm not down ever. You know, like doesn't mean I can't sleep, you know, with her, but like I just, and we both like our own bedrooms. You know, I believe in the idea of an energetic reset in relationships where, you know, even if things are fine, spend, you know, a week away from each other, you know, and then see how you feel. That's to me like one of the best things because it resets the energy, especially if there's fights or stagnant energy, stuff like that, you know. But ideally for, you know, for the aqua Venus person, there's that need to yeah, to really have, you know, you really value the more eccentric types, you know, the types of people who are very, you know, independent and just like, you know, they're very firm in themselves, even if they're doing, even if they're into like weird hobbies or whatever, like they are them, you know, they're not worried about societal conditioning, like they not give a fuck. Um, so, and that's really good for you because as a, you know, as a Leo North node, you're trying to reconnect with the inner child, and the inner child is you letting go of any you know, any inhibitions and just being able to be weird. Humans are all fucking weird. We're very weird. We're very fucking weird humans. All of us. Everyone's weird. Anyone human that's normal is fucking weird. Um, like I'm weird as fuck. And well, okay, let's define weird. Weird, not weird, just like goofy, you know, like a kid. And I think that the Leo, the essence of Leo, the real Leo, is getting is really becoming such a great. It's about leadership too, but it's really about, you know, it's, I think of smiling. I think of playing. You know, it's about playing because it's only through playing that we can find our passion, our true passion. So with the South Node in Aqua, you know, eighth, I think that like, you know, you can use that, right? Because you have this real ability to be someone that's very humanitarian, someone, you know, with the Neptune and Venus conjunction, someone who's a real lover, you know, very pure soul. Um, but it's time in this lifetime for you to really follow that moon in Leo, right? And really just play and really explore. And you know, when you find those passions, then it's about using that fixed fire, which is Leo, to just, you know, that's why Leo, that's one thing special about Leo, right? Is that it's, you know, fire, like Aries energy, for example, it's boom, like boom, boom, boom. But like sometimes it doesn't have the follow through. Leo is fixed fire, and you know, Sag is mutable fire. So Sag can be like, you know, start this, start that, start this, start that. I mean, obviously Sag wants to be more like an arrow, right? It's, you know, and single pointed, but you know, Leo's fixed fire. So yeah. But yeah, like with the Venus Neptune, like that is like soulmate energy, right? So like that is like I never use the word twin flame, but like if I see someone with South Node, Venus, and Neptune in a 4-degree conjunction with the South Node in the middle, midpointed by, you know, the midpoint of the other two. Esme, come here. Here comes Esme, guys. Come on, Esme. Help me out. You've done 2 readings. Come on, Esme. Come on, you've done 2 already. Come on, you owe me 1 more. I'll pay you extra. Come on, Esme. You have some fans. Come on, Esme. Okay, fine, whatever. So yeah, basically, you know, this is the kind of, yeah, I could totally see for this chart there being, here's Esme. Here's the superstar. Say hi, guys. Okay, Esme, can you do the thing for me? You do every chart. Look at the chart, and whatever you look at, I think is the most important. Okay. Yeah, let's show. Esme, you're just looking down. Okay, being camera shy. Okay. Esme, look. Okay, go look. No, Esme. Why you always do this so perfectly? Esme, please do your thing. Look at the important part that you want me to look at. Look. Okay, good. Now she's doing it. Really? Really? You think it's that important? Okay. All right. You looked at the ascendant in Cancer. And then she squeaked. Let's get Esme on. At least her ears. Yeah, it's my first time. Esme, be on my lap. Be on my lap, Esme. So yeah, why do you only talk about the ascendant? Okay, you're biting my hand. I already talked about the ascendant. So what are you talking about? Talk more? Okay. Well, my cat is saying I need to talk more about, I don't know. Let's try this again. You try it one more time. You're not doing it. You're looking down. Maybe she's like, I work too much. She's like, I've already done this with 2 readings tonight. Fine, Esme. Okay. So yeah, as I was saying, I could totally see this being like, the ultimate romantic energy, but sometimes you have to like kind of let go of different ideas that might seep in of like what the perfect partner is and blah blah blah. And it's a different path for everyone, right? So yeah. All right, let me backtrack a little bit. Let's see what we got going on. So Esme, don't touch my you just ended the live, Esme. Okay. Get away from the phone. So yeah, so so I mean, I don't know what else I can say about the ascendant. Like maybe I just need to talk more about that. I mean, I guess it gives it's a feminine energy. And it's also cardinal energy, so it's good. Cancer can be very good for business. It's opposite sign of Capricorn. And oh yeah, I mean, I guess yeah, okay, maybe that's what I was going to talk about. It's like, it is very nurturing, caring for others, and family becomes very important. So with your Jupiter in the 11th, I get the sense that maybe, not sure, because you do have some tough aspects with the moon. That could have made that more difficult. And maybe it's like about having, well, you have Saturn and Jupiter in the 11th. So like maybe it's about having, your friends in a group that you're part of, like, don't touch my computer. Becoming your family in a sense, right? But I think, like the Cancer rising, like it really has like that Leo moons are fucking sensitive. I don't like literally, I don't care what anyone says, like they are sensitive. And they don't always show it, but they are. And I think like, I think that what can happen is there can be, a real warmth from the Cancer rising, a real nurturing, but sometimes, maybe with that South Node energy, the passive energy, it can be taken advantage, like good nature being taken advantage of, perhaps, right? So interesting stuff. So to have Chiron and Pluto, I'll go there later. Um, So yeah, Sun conjunct midheaven. Let's talk about that. That's massive, right? They're in different signs, but still. You're definitely, this lifetime is definitely the accumulation. Like the fact that you were born on an eclipse and your sun's at 29-degree Aquarius, like, this is clearly like, the culminating lifetime for very specific karma, right? And I think it's the karma of individualism. And I think this lifetime, to me, it's like time, like I said, it's time for you to have a little bit of fun while still, doing what your soul wants to do. Now I want to, like, when we look at like the sun conjunct the midheaven, right? It's in Pisces 0 degrees. I think that's, that could be spiritual work. I think that like any ninth house midheaven in the whole signs, I always think that there's like a certain level of like wanting to, through your work / your dharma, wanting to truly find truth, right? And 0 degrees, so it's like, it's kind of like the fool, like what the fuck's the card called in tarot? I don't know shit about tarot. The Fool card, Fool's card, Fool. What's it called? Fool. So it is. What's on my phone? Oh, I mean. So there is kind of like a lot of trial and error for you, right? And I think that when like the best type of career is something where you can really learn about yourself spiritually, and you can learn you can enhance your truth. Because remember, I'm karmic astrologer, Jupiter square the nodes. There's you're trying you're here to really find truth. To refine that truth that was taken away from you before. Regain faith in the world, regain faith in God, the universe, right? So that leads me to the eighth house, right? Because the sun's there, and then Uranus is also there, right? And then Neptune's there. So when you have Neptune the eighth, like, and Uranus the eighth, that is amazing, but like for psychic kind of like intuitive energy, right? Like eighth house Neptune, you can really just feel, really feel kind of at one with others, and really through metaphysical pursuits, you can just like almost, what's the word? Transcend kind of daily life, I guess you could say, right? And it's very psychic. It's very good, like for someone who's like any kind of healer, because you can feel like the kind of undercurrents, right? The psychological, energetic undercurrents. And it's also, you're able to also eighth house Neptune. Watch out for contract, like any kind of legal contractual stuff. Make sure that you don't get into debt either. Do not get into fucking debt. So yeah, and with Uranus there, there can be, lots of lots of fascination and lots of like downloads that can come when we're talking about the esoteric. And when you add Venus, I always think of Venus as like a lantern. Venus in the eighth house, which I think that's 3 in a row I've had, and always have the same things. It's so crazy. 3 full moon charts in a row, Jesus. But it's like it illuminates. So the eighth house is like areas of life, like the underground, metaphysics, psychology, like the depth of existence, right? Like the gates, the unknown. And a lot of people are afraid to even look at those things, right? Like it's studies of life after death, all that stuff. For you, it's like, and it's very dark, right? For you, it's like, I always think of like it's like a cemetery or something, right? And the gates open. I think of the cemetery I used to walk my dog at when I was younger. And it's like the gates open and you have a lantern. And you're able to kind of like see all these things and have like a positive experience, right? So it will make you fascinated and really love to explore this. And the more you explore it, the more you can expand, and that expands your worldview, which expands your individualism, which is like a big part of your chart. So with Uranus, it's great to have in the eighth, because the eighth is a boundless house, and it definitely can do its thing there. I think that there's a certain amount of like occult magic that can come from an eighth house Uranus. Very strong intuition, like so the more you meditate, the more you can just like receive these downloads, lightning strikes of downloads, right? Like moments of clarity that just come. But everything, like these energies are all muscles, right? It's like at the gym. So it's like if you don't work them out, like I'm not saying they don't exist, but it's like you really have to meditate. You have to do the things, whatever it is, whatever your version of it is, right? If you're just always kind of in the worrying state, the vibration of your brain, like the waves of your brain are like the da 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 da. It's hard to get any type of downloads, right? So yeah, it's really a good one there. And yeah, it just, you could even be someone who like is inventive in that area, Esme, what are you doing? So yeah, I think I'm trying to think what else. Yeah. Also, so, Neptune 8th, I feel like I'm missing some shit. Let me think. Yeah, so so also like inheritances, like I mean, with all that 8th house energy with Venus and the Sun, but then all those other ones, like that could be something. I'm not there's too much energy for me to like tell you like the prediction. But you know, yeah, like but the thing, going back to this theme, right? Like it's a double-edged sword being such being so open to these spiritual currents, right? Because, obviously like we know the good part, you can just like, be super intuitive and have all these spiritual gifts and all that. But, the negative side is this deception and also self-deception, right? So, and like I was saying before, like, eighth house is loans, debts, all that stuff, right? So contracts. So, some people with this can be easily tricked into, like I don't know, getting some kind of credit that they can't pay. So it's really important not to be in debt if you have that. And just not trust anyone. Don't trust anyone. Um, but I don't think your Neptune doesn't have any. Well, yeah, it opposes the moon. So, yeah. But also, like one thing with that Neptune 8th house. Let me sip on this little kombucha, blah blah. Um, some people with that like don't like they can sometimes like believe everything that they read. Like I'm not saying that's you. I'm just saying that like it's really important to really really take your time when it comes to like any kind of like information, right? Especially magic and anything esoteric, anything spiritual. So but yeah, just like 8th house is also very sexual. So, with Venus and Neptune there, like, yeah, like they can have like these very like kind of like tantric kind of sexual stuff. I don't know. And yeah, fuck, what else? What else? What else? What else? Yeah, unconditional love for sure is a big thing there. Um, oh yeah, watch out for substances because Neptune rules poison and you don't want to like poison yourself to death. I once had a client who had Neptune the 8th, and I said that to her, and she like literally told me a story of how her dad like I forget it was like my first year of astrology. I think her dad like owned a lab, some crazy story about how she like drank something. I don't even fucking remember. But basically, she like through her dad's work like drank or took something she wasn't supposed to and like nearly poisoned herself. And it's like damn, fucking crazy. Okay, so more about the love stuff. So yeah, like I said, so we talk about Juno, right? That's what I've always looked at Juno as like the ideal partner. Um, so it's in the 7th house. It's in June. Juno's in Juno. What's up, Kat? Thank you, Jules. Um, so Juno in the 7th. Obviously that's very good for you want them long-term relationships. It's a lover boy. Um, Juno and Capricorn is interesting, right? Because, that makes you want, maybe someone older, maybe, someone that you can definitely respect. And where there's that mutual respect and that foundation that's built. So it's like where are you going, Esmond? Jesus. Yeah. So there's this real kind of split between, freedom, deep romance, and this like this real foundational commitment. But it's kind of like I say it so much, but it's like just consistency, just knowing you can trust that person, knowing that like it's like when you're building a building. I say this metaphor so much, I need to find a new one, but they spend big buildings, they spend a lot of time on the foundations, right? That's kind of how it is with relationships. But then within that relationship, really wanting the ability to kind of have it maybe be a little bit more of an eccentric type of relationship with tons of freedom. um unconventional type stuff, right? Because remember, people don't always talk about how important the North Node is to relationships. So, if your North Node's a Leo, you're here to shine. You're here to individuate. You're here to find yourself creatively and also like spiritually in this with the Jupiter square and finding truth. So, someone closed-minded would not be good for you. Someone who is overly traditional, yes, maybe with the Juno and Capricorn, some level of that is nice, but I guess there's nothing wrong with tradition. I'm just saying like that was the wrong word. Someone who's like overly rigid. That's what I meant. I don't know why I said tradition. So yeah. But like yeah, I just think also like the relationships can be intense. The intimate relationships can definitely be intense as well. Just with the eighth house having so much there. But very transformational and yeah. And then the descendant's also Capricorn. So Saturn ruling that, Saturn the 11th. Okay, let's talk about the 11th. So Jupiter in 11th and Saturn 11th is very interesting because they're kind of opposites, right? Jupiter is about expansion, Saturn is about restriction. So like Jupiter in the 11th people are very popular. They tend to just not have any issues with making friends, right? Like they can move to a new place, boom, like they're fine, And also 11th house is also related to the money as well, right? More wealth, right? Like big picture, and it's also related to like your big picture goals. So the 11th house Jupiter, it's like this constantly like increasing amount of friends, circle of friends, and it makes your big goals, like the goals that take a lifetime to accomplish, super important to you in terms of like your overall search for meaning, right? And it's also good for leadership, and then in Taurus, it is interesting, right? Because Jupiter makes everything more. So Jupiter and Taurus, good for money too. And I think there's a certain persistence with Jupiter and Taurus, in terms of the search for truth. And but one thing I've noticed with it, sometimes it can make people, I've seen it make people a little bit hedonistic sometimes because Jupiter is all about the senses and what feels good. So, and there's not really that many bad aspects. Yeah. Well, yeah, I think it's important to not speculate financially, like to not take big risks financially. Like it's important to really learn how to handle money conservatively because it does square Neptune. But yeah, that's also really good for like, being artistic and all that stuff. But then, with Saturn, right? So Saturn the 11th is definitely the opposite, right? So like people I know with Saturn the 11th, they tend to have trouble making friends. Like I've seen it where it's like only after the Saturn return that they start to make their real kind of karmic friends, and before that maybe they're the opposite of like someone that would move to a new place and have trouble meeting new people and so forth, right? So it's like it's kind of push and pull with the Jupiter and whatever it's called, Saturn. um yeah, it's interesting. And when there's two kind of planets like that in a house, I just tend to think like that, in some ways there's this kind of back and forth between expansion. Like perhaps like you might have like a lot of friends, but then in terms of like the real friends, you know, like the people you really consider like your real inner circle, it's really, really tight knit and maybe a little bit more, you know, and more serious, like like only like a handful of like very serious friendships, and then maybe like a lot of like kind of, you know, whatever friendships, you know, and like in terms of like not like so, yeah, like maybe like a lot of like kind of friends that are like not that close, and then um you know, carefully selecting your friends that are your BFFs. Okay. Tracy some stars. What's up, Esme? You are obsessed with the camera. So that's the sixth. I think there's a big time, you know, commitment to serving others. And you know, that's you know, in Sag. So I think that, you know, that what are you saying? Yeah, see, I see with the Saturn and Jupiter, I think like it's tough, you know. It's tough. I think that in some, I think that like that would be my that there'd be periods, there could be like periods where it's more Saturnian. I think with like the main friends, it's probably more Saturnian, you know, like more of like the like kind of just like keeping like the close circle, like kind of tight knit, the people that you really trust. And then with, but then also like being able to like have like a lot of like, you know how like if you're someone like goes out a lot, you might have like party friends, you know, they're not really like friends, but like, I mean, they're friends, but they're not people who like are like your best friends or people you just kind of see. So maybe that like they're kind of like more acquaintances, I guess. So maybe like with on that, there's like a lot of those, and maybe with the stat with like the really close friends, it's more, um, you know, Saturnian. But yeah, so yeah, I think that you can definitely, you know, really work for, yeah, what if you believe in a cause, like you really like you really want to work some, like once again work in a way that brings you to that truth, that Sagittarian truth. But you know, Black and Lilith's there too, right? So it's really important that you don't exclude other people's point of view, and you understand that you know, everyone comes to their own truth, and everyone has their own um you know, subjective truth, right? And that's what can happen sometimes is that, you know, as spiritual people, we can, you know, find all these amazing things, um right? We find all these amazing teachings, and we have people that we love, right? And we want them to benefit from it. And it's very Sagittarian to try to push your philosophy on other people, and because you're like, I spent so much time, you know, developing and finding this, like, you know, you should also like it. So, um, but I think like if you break it down to a fear, Sag would be like fear of meaninglessness. And it kind of goes back to that square with Jupiter, right? Because you know, it's like it's like that's another thing about the South Node square of Jupiter is that there could have been, you know, lifetimes where that was a feeling, like nihilism, meaninglessness, right? So, you know, there can really be a fear of being deceived, right? Um, or not finding the truth, right? Um, so there can be like this endless questioning, of, you know, what is actually true, and are people actually being honest with me? Um, so, you know, I think like the real integration, it's coming when one stops questioning everything and just starts really feeling through their intuition, you know? And then also, you know, like you know, what do you feel like? What has meaning to you, right? So it's really about going back to the main thing with your chart, Aquarius, Leo, axis, individuality, right? Not someone else's truth. You know, what matters, what's your personal truth. Um, so that's how I would see it. And but yeah, there's like a lot of like real good energy for serving others. And And also just making sure that you keep your, so make sure that you do not overwork. But like, you know, Pluto 6, it's like also like a big shift away from, so it's interesting because it kind of counteracts like, you know, this, you know, I mean, you are an Aquarius sun, so it's like, it's not like you're not meant to be, you know, Aquarius, right? Like, obviously you are. It's just that there's more of kind of a eighth house push, you know, a Scorpionic Plutonian, like eliminating the parts of it that aren't needed. And, you know, I think that with Pluto in the sixth, like, you have to just like make sure that the work you're doing is really, really, really like with your soul, or else you can get sick or things can happen. So I think that, yeah, it can, you know, Pluto sixth house people, like, yeah, it's really like about the collective, you know, and also daily routines are super important, right? And the dramatic changes of health can happen, you know, if one doesn't understand the relationship of mind and body, right? If you're doing something you hate and you're overworking over, like just doing too much, that's when bad shit can happen, right? So, you know, having, you know, doing something like with that midheaven in Pisces, you know, with all these other indications I've seen with the Vesta and so forth, like that really, you know, even part of fortune's right there too in the sixth house and Sag, like it's so clear that, you know, your like big goal also karmically is to refine truth in this lifetime. Refine truth, right? That stays in the soul. You know, when you find that, you know, maybe we come into the next life not really like remembering it like spot on, but we feel it in our soul. We feel meaning, you know, and then karmically we find our way to things like astrology or spirituality, right? So it's all karma. But you know, I talked about the Chiron before, but I didn't really talk about the house. So I think that also speaks about, you know, how, you know, like being, you know, healing yourself and healing others on a daily basis could be a real, you know, like learning like different healing techniques, whether it's physical, but like, you know, here I think it's around, you know, because like I think my thing that I understand is that we all have our own healing journeys, right? It's like I have my healing journey, you have everyone has their healing journey, you know. So through your healing journey, once you do it, that's the whole thing with Chiron. It's like then you're able to assist other people on their version of your healing journey. So if it's with Sagittarius, you know, it's like, okay, finding meaning, finding truth, finding expansion, finding optimism, you know, like learning the true wisdom. All right. Let's see. Yeah, so I see a ton of creative energy, and I think like as a Leo moon, you know, you could really, you know, and I think that like even Vertex fifth, like you can really like there's a lot that can come from when you just let go, you know, when you just let go and play. That's when the doorway to higher awareness can open up. And just the like with moon conjunct north node, it's just like when you follow the like that you know that instinct, when you follow that you know that authentic um play, that's when, you know, when you're going to find the answers, right? So I would ask yourself, you know, how much play, how much inner child, I wish there was a better word than inner child. I know I just don't like words like that are just, I've heard too many times, thing against it. But you know, like how much of that's in your life? Because you know, with that Aries Mars in the 10th that trines that's definitely giving you, that's really, you know, that's giving you this risk taking, right? Aries Mars people, that gives you like an assertiveness, that gives you like a you know, it definitely helps with some of the stuff I mentioned about boundaries, right? um but also sometimes Mars and Aries, I mean, that's very good for career, and Aries really, 10th could be very entrepreneurial, right? Very like, it's like initiating energy. So it's, someone who can move, someone who can, like really make things happen. When you set your mind to something, you just go. Very ambitious, right? Um, and I think of Aries as independence. So, in the 10th house, I would think that in areas of career and overall dharma and what you're doing, you'd want to have independence and, also being able to find truth. Because, you've got the Sagg energy, you got the Leo, and you got the Aries. So, yeah, it's like a grand trine kind of with Moon, Pluto, and Mars. Yeah, yeah, that counts. So, you have this real firepower, and when you have firepower, it's just about trying a bunch of shit and not being too all over the place, not just starting this and letting it go. And that's what I was saying earlier about Leo. One of the great things about Leo, right? It's that, you can really, really, you know, keep things going. And, part of fortune 6 and Sag, it is, part of fortune is like, I think of it as your flow state. You're at your best, like kind of just like where you're flowing, you're chilling, you're good. And in Sag, it is, very like, when you are, it literally says, like, backs up everything I've been saying. It's like when you are growing, when you are experiencing new wisdom, traveling physically and metaphorically, right? Like expanding yourself, when you have perspective over your life, right? When you feel like you're on the top of a mountain and looking down your life, as opposed to, being like underneath like water and in the underworld, right? That's what you want to be, right? Because that's when you can see like what everything is all about. And you know, also sixth house, it's asking you to, like for your life, for you to organize your life, for your life to like to have a level of service in it, but also to kind of like hit the spiritual, emotional, physical, everything all, have something in your daily life. And like I said, you lack earth, so that's even more of a challenge. Um, so schedules, what you eat, your sleep, um, all these things like mental health, spirit, making sure that you fill up your spiritual tank, right? Stuff like that. It's important. Um, yeah, let's see. Let's pop these babies open. Stare at my fucking computer because there's so many stars. Mm, 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 mm. They're all crunched together. I have to like, ooh. So you have asteroid Urania activated. It's conjunct Uranus. So I'm gonna be honest, I'm not so sure. But Uranus is, you know, Uranus rules astrology. So, and Urania is the asteroid of astrology. So, you know, who knows? And what's next to Venus? What is that? Oh yeah, duh, Altair. And 3 degrees from Fomalhaut. And for the third time in a row, maybe fourth, Amor is activated. My favorite asteroid probably. Amor is about unconditional universal love. Like, isn't that crazy? I've had 3 charts in a row. This literally happens every time. Like they've all been full moons, so sun opposite moon. They've all had a more activated by an important, like an exact conjunction with an important point or planet. And probably other stuff in common too. But yeah, so Amor is really about unconditional love, love at its purest, unattached, you know, and what's up, Esme? Esme has it. And yeah, like you know, to have that, you know, even with Mars, I think that it would make you be someone who would want to fight for that, right? Who'd want to fight for you know, for this very, very high level of compassion and you know, and just be able to kind of extend that to all humans. It's one, like, I don't really believe, it's not that I don't believe in asteroids, like I just believe in my own logic and my experiences. And like, for example, with aspects, right, like the ones I was telling you about earlier, Neptune, Uranus, like opposite the moon, like I talked to a million people and like the experiences are similar, right? Obviously everyone has like a different way that they handle it with their free will, but you know, these are a million times more important. But there's a few but then the fixed stars are different. Fixed stars, I see that, you know. But then fixed stars, it's so hard to find like the right information. And I have a new book coming. I have a few already, but you know, it's kind of a lot of, it's very ancient, but at least it's from thousands of years ago. Asteroids, like I've tried some that I've just deleted out of my system because, like, you know, I'll tell someone about it and then I meet with them and they're like, I don't feel like that at all, you know. So there's only a few like besides the main four, you know, Vesta, Juno, Ceres, and Pallas, like those ones I always talk about. There's a few asteroids that I believe in, but like asteroids do not matter. Like I don't care what anyone says, they do not matter. I'm sorry, guys. It does not matter what, if you have your like a random asteroid besides the big four I just mentioned in a house. It does not matter at all unless it's like in a tight conjunction with an important planet. And with fixed stars, it's the same thing. But the fixed stars, the difference is that, you know, they are game changers. They can be game changers. You can have the worst chart, but if you have Regulus, or if you have Fomalhaut, or if you have an Aldebaran, you know, on your ascendant or your midheaven, you know, exact, like it's fate. It's a game changer. So I'm still working out which asteroids I believe in, but Amor is definitely one of them. Lust, you know, random one, Lust, right? That one big time. Like, holy shit. Like every girl I've ever done a reading for that has Lust activated has like this real, like similar stories, you know? Um, it's very much like this very like raw sexual energy that yeah. So there's more than that, but like for like because think about how many thousands of asteroids there are. Like um how could it matter at all if you have one asteroid? I mean, someone tell me, I'm open to be wrong, but like if you have this very first, I always ask the question, okay, first of all, who came up with the asteroid and who named it, right? That's my first question. And this is, I'm not saying this for all of them, right? This is just how I think, because I'm always trying to figure it out. And if I'm wrong, I'm happy I'm wrong, you know? But I can just never figure out if there's like thousands and thousands of asteroids, and you have, let's say, whatever asteroid, whatever in your ninth house, it's not touching any planets. Like, how can that be something that actually does something, has an effect in your life? Like, if that's true logically, then you'd have to do that with every asteroid, and like the reading would be like 50 million hours long, and you would just lose yourself. I don't know the answer. But yeah, more, I definitely fuck with them more. I have like a list of like quite a few. quite a few of these babies, but a lot of them I don't know. Maybe it'll come in time, but I just haven't found them to be useful. And I've tried. I've asked people, do you experience this? So not that many stars. Actually, what is this? Aphrodite rising. So Aphrodite is about beauty. It's more feminine. This is a male's chart. But hey, maybe you have beauty. I don't know. Maybe you have I really cannot think of what Aphrodite would do. But yeah, men can be beautiful, right? So yeah, maybe it makes you a beautiful man. I don't know. What was the other one? Guys, look at this. I'm trying to decipher the numbers. Insane. Somehow I have to be able to tell. So yeah, I think I'm more in, what's that? See, I don't know. Like I'm more Urania. Oh yeah, and then Altair. I want to search 11 and 11. So ascendant 11, 11, Cancer 11, Leo. Midheaven is 0. Let's close the full more. Well, where is that fixed star spot? Where's the fixed star machine? 11, 11, 11, 11. Cancer. Nope. And IC is 0. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I forgot. Yeah. Regulus IC. That's a big one. 11 Capricorn. And then this 0. Okay. Altair. Fucking hot. Why is my AC not working? Who likes summer? I am doing my first IG Live reading right now. Anonymous reading. Just finishing up with the stars. Okay. So these matter mostly for the 4 angles and then sun and moon. I read an ancient text today that was basically saying that, no, it's not that it doesn't matter with planets, but it's mostly ascendant, midheaven, descendant, IC, sun, moon. I think that was the order. Okay. This makes sense. Okay, so Regulus IC should have something. Yeah, so it's the same thing. Yeah, so Regulus, it's the Star of Kings. I have it rising and I have a tattoo. You guys can't read it because it's backwards. Yeah, you have an IC, so it just gives, it's very good for 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 power, and the pretty close conjunction too. It can give a very commanding. It's good for leadership for sure, and resources in general, and yeah, and but there's not that much on it with the ice sheet. And then what was the other one? It was this one, which was the midheaven, right? No, it's the wrong one. No, nope. Yeah, this one, wherever this is, and it's 2 degrees. It's not even close. No, that one's nothing. Says success in trade and occupations of a Mars nature, but that's not a very on the midheaven. So Mars nature, yeah, you could be a fighter. You can be a fighter. Okay, but that last one wasn't really important. All right, let me delete. Let's see if I missed any aspect patterns. So we saw that. Is this fun? Should I do this more? It was a lot of people. Last time I looked, it was like 50. So no kite nearly. Well, actually, is that a kite? So Moon, Pluto, Mars, Neptune. And the moon, is it does that count? 8-degree orb. 4, 11, 7. So yeah, it kind of just highlights that that opposition even more of Moon and Neptune. Yeah. What if I just streamed all my work? So yeah, obviously we have the Grand Trine, the 2 sextiles, and yeah, so the opposition is like the release point, and kind of what kind of adds like the tension, and Grand Trines can be a little bit, sometimes people, they're great talents, right? But the kite definitely, the opposition definitely adds some spunk to it. So and there's that need for release that comes from the focal point, which is the moon. Actually, no, it's Neptune. What am I talking about? Or wait, hold the fuck. Yeah, Neptune. So yeah, we talked about about that opposition and the importance of the Neptune opposite moon, and how on a high level that's the ultimate psychic ability, spirituality. You bring those together, 8th house Neptune, moon, and it's really just kind of like preaching the importance of separating the the illusion from the Jesse's brain is dying. Jesse's brain is dying. Imagination from intuition, right? And really, really getting real with things, and really, having the alone time, having the spiritual relationship with yourself, finding the internal values and the energetic boundaries, so that you can really flourish. And I think your environment is so important. And yeah. Where'd all those other ones go? Esme, what are you doing? No. No. Okay, I think I went over everything. We talked about Mercury ninth house. Yeah, also just like don't like, it's not like a bad thing like if you have periods of time where you just like disappear into like a dream world, like kind of separated from like, where you kind of just leave the world behind. Like that's fine. You need that. You need periods where you're alone and where you're kind of like refabricating your reality and reassessing and gaining inspiration from within. Um, Mercury and Pisces, they definitely need that, or they can be very overwhelmed by the environment. So, really be careful of where you live and who you surround yourself with. And yeah, ninth house Mercury, it's just very, very, very keen to explore all, the realms of wisdom, of knowledge, of anything that teaches you about philosophy, and then it connects to your dharma and what you're meant to do. So, I think foreign cultures could be an amazing thing for you to explore, and that is it. So thank you, and hope you enjoyed. All right, ciao to the reading.